Hey, what's going on, guys? So today is Wednesday, January 15th. And today I wanted to talk. This is something I wanted to speak on for a very long time. Um, Very interesting. Um, about the entertainment industry and the LGBTQ community. Okay. Now, when I started acting, um, to me, acting field has really become the biggest blessing of my life. Um, and it has nothing to do with, earning money or anything. The reason why I say that is because I've never felt so I never felt such a sense of belonging, you know. I talked about this in my interviews about, being around like minded individuals, people that are creatives and love music, love the arts, love fashion, love film, love acting, comedy, hip hop. These are all the things that I've loved and, hobbies and things that I'm into ever since I was a kid, since I was a teenager. Hip hop and fashion and stuff, and now film. So being around other creatives and people that are similar to me and have the same common interests, that's something very important in life, is having, a strong community of like-minded individuals around yourself. And I really feel like I found my tribe in the film community amongst other actors. I can relate to being the funny person, the comedian in my family, the person that can impersonate anyone, can change my voice, love to dress up in costumes. That's what actors do. However, I still feel a little out of place sometimes. And I still feel like I kind of, sort of don't belong. And, I don't want to use the word don't belong, but I still feel a little out of place, and I will elaborate and explain why. The reason why I feel a little out of place at times in the film industry and amongst other creatives is because I do not belong to the LGBTQ community. And I know you're probably wondering why I'm bringing up and mentioning the LGBTQ community. And that is because Hollywood is ruled by the LGBTQ community. Um, if I had to take a wild guess, estimate, I would say 97% of everyone in Hollywood in the entertainment industry, music and film, belong to the LGBTQ community. They're either lesbian, gay, bisexual, or trans. And I know there's people that'll watch this video and say, no, well, so and so's not gay, but what about them? Because them two, they aren't gay. Yes, they are. Okay, trust me on this one, all right? I know I don't know everything, but I know what I'm talking about with this one, okay? Like I said, nearly everyone in Hollywood, music and film, belongs to the LGBTQ community. You may not know they're part of the community, but they are. Okay? They're either a lesbian, they're gay, they're bisexual, or trans. Okay? So that's where it gets a little tricky for me when it comes to fitting into the community. Alright? Because I do not belong to the LGBTQ community at all. Okay? I told you I'm a heterosexual woman. I'm only attracted to men. I've only been in relationships with men. I'm also a biological woman. I was born with a vagina. I've been a female my whole life. And you can always fact check that information. I can give you my mother's email if you want to verify. And she can proved, and confirmed that yes, I was born a girl on December 3rd, 1985. And she knows for a fact because she used to wipe my butt and she gave birth to me. Okay, you can verify it with my older siblings too. They also wiped my butt. So yeah, I don't belong to the LGBTQ community. And I'm aware that pretty much everyone in the music and film industry, these famous entertainers, they belong to the LGBTQ community. So I feel somewhat out of place. But once again, the more I do acting and stuff, the more I start to see that, being being amongst like-minded individuals and the people that you think would be so like-minded and that you would fit in with, sometimes those are the people that you don't fit in with at all. It's like I was saying in the previous video diary entry that a lot of the hatred and animosity and negativity that I've been experiencing has been from other Muslim women. And that's probably because they can't relate to and identify with a Muslim woman like myself. And I said this in the first video diary entry. Every Muslim woman isn't like me, and I'm aware of that. Every Muslim woman isn't a go-getter like me. Every Muslim woman isn't a creative like me. Every Muslim woman isn't a visionary like me, isn't a hustler like me, isn't motivated like me, isn't ambitious and determined and dedicated to a goal and dreams like myself. And that's probably why they have so many negative things to say, because they can identify with a Muslim woman that's such a go-getter like myself. Okay, every Muslim woman isn't a boss ass shit like me, but I am, and that's who God made me to be, and that's why God chose me to be the Hollywood hijabi and the pioneer and the one to kick down the door in the film industry and break down the barriers and boundaries. As a Muslim hijab wearing woman, I feel like that's why God chose me, because he knows how ambitious and motivated I am and how focused and determined and driven I am. When I set my mind to do something, trust and believe I'm gonna do it. It may take me some time, but I'm not on anyone else's time frame but my own and on God's. And it will get done. Whatever it is meant for me to achieve in my purpose in life, I will achieve it. And that's why, like I said, you won't identify with her. I can't identify with every Muslim woman, especially the women that are stay-at-home moms and wives and don't work or whatever. I can't identify with any woman that doesn't work or is stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home wife, because I'm not that woman. I'm a working woman. I've been a working woman since I was 15 years old, and that's how I've been able to achieve everything in the film industry without a manager and without an agent, to work on 30 plus productions in Hollywood as a background actress because of my work ethic, okay? And every Muslim woman doesn't have that same, creative spirit, is a free spirit, is a go-getter like myself. So I'm not going to identify with every Muslim woman. It's like I was saying, you're not going to identify with every black person. And I really find myself identifying and being able to fit in a lot with the LGBTQ community, even though I'm not LGBTQ, but because of the fact that we are like-minded individuals when it comes to things that we're passionate about, the arts, the film industry, music, acting, fashion, those are all the things that I've loved my whole life. We talked to my mom, my siblings, people that know me since I was young, since I was a kid, they'll tell you I've always been a funny person. I've always been into music. I've always been into fashion, into hip hop, into poetry, and I'm just now getting into film, but they will tell you I've always had this bubbly personality, and I've always been a free spirit. And it's not like I've never had any gay friends or anything. I've had tons of gay friends, mostly gay males. Had a lot of gay male friends. But fitting in with the LGBTQ community as far as, in the arts, I am aware and I understand that I'm in y'all's territory. I'm an alien here, and I'm a little out of place, you know, because when I was on all those Hollywood sets, um, I told you it was all eyes on me, and I am aware why, because they're not used to seeing a Muslim woman in hijab on sets of Hollywood productions. So I still feel, as much as I feel at home in the film industry, I still feel somewhat a little out of place because I do not belong to the LGBTQ community. And, that goes to show you, that being amongst like-minded people that share the same passions as you, that's what really matters. Like, you really start to sit and think about what really matters in life. Race, religion, sexual orientation, whatever. You start to see none of this stuff even matters. You share the same passion as someone, you'd be surprised who you would, become friends with and be able to relate to and, get close to. And the people you thought would have your back and would be supporting you, those turn out to be your biggest haters and the ones hating on you. Because every Muslim woman isn't a hustler and a go-getter like me. I understand that. I've been a hustler and a go-getter my whole life. And, that's probably why I'm the one God chose to be the Hollywood hijabi. I'm always determined. And I've always been a person that if it's something I want to achieve, I'm not going to let anything stand in the way of me achieving it. So, yeah, amongst the LGBTQ community, being a heterosexual woman is just something that I've had to understand that I will always be somewhat out of place in this industry. There's no other, really anybody, I'm not going to say that I can't identify with. I know that I will always be the oddball out Jehan the Muslim girl. And I'm okay with that because I've been Jehan the Muslim girl my whole life. And anywhere I go on this green earth, I will be known as Jehan the Muslim girl. And it's a lot of things like that I wasn't aware of when it comes to the LGBTQ community, because to me it's a whole nother world, it's a whole nother planet that I'm not familiar with, just like you guys aren't familiar with my world, my Islamic world. And that's why I chose to write and create my own production as opposed to auditioning to be a character in someone else's, because I wanted to educate people on my religion and lifestyle and way of life, So you won't ask Muslims questions like, so you go a whole 30 days straight without eating during Ramadan? No, we don't. Do you wear that hijab in the shower? No, we don't. We don't wear it inside of our home at all. We only wear it outside. Inside of our home, we don't wear it at all. Do you have sex with your hijab on? No, we don't. We get butt booty ball naked just like everyone else when we have sex. Nobody's having sex in their hijab, okay? So that's why I wanted to do my own production and write it and direct it. It's a way, an avenue to teach and educate people. about who I am and my lifestyle. I don't expect for people to know a lot about Islam. This is America. It's not a Muslim country. You're not going to know anything about Islam unless you have a family member or a close friend that is a Muslim. You know, so I when people ask me those questions, I used to think they were stupid questions and think they were ignorant and dumb, but no question is a stupid question. I don't expect you to know. You're not a Muslim, and this is not a Muslim country. So that's why I'm here to educate and teach people about my lifestyle, my way of life. And with all that being said, I would like to offer a sincere apology to the LGBTQ community, specifically to the trans community. I apologize for my ignorance. I apologize if I ever said anything that was offensive and hurtful. I don't live in y'all's world at all. You know, I've been a girl my whole life. I was born with a vagina. I only date men. I'm only attracted to men. I don't live in the LGBTQ world. I just don't. You know, just like you guys don't live in my world. You're not a Muslim, and I'm not gay or trans or lesbian. So that's why I'm here, you know, to bridge the gap and build a bridge of understanding amongst both of our worlds and communities. Because I had to learn a lot of things so I wouldn't be ignorant, just like I'm willing to teach you guys a lot of things through my production, so you also won't be ignorant. Like, prime example, I didn't know the T word, Tranny word. I swear I did not know that was an offensive word. I just found that out about 10 years ago. And I used to say it, you know, kind of often. And I used to use that word. I did not know that was an offensive word. I swear I did not. One of my gay guy friends told me, say, you know, that's an offensive word. It's like calling a gay man the F word. And I was like, oh my God, I did not know that. And then I don't live in that world. I don't know y'all's lingo. Like, I don't know these things. It's all these lingos with binary and all these pronouns, and I don't live in that world, guys. I don't. That's why I say I apologize. Please forgive me. You have to remember, I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. In Raleigh, North Carolina, some things you just don't see. And I hate to sound so dumb, you know, where I'm from, men have penises and women have vaginas. And that's just the truth. I can count on one hand the number of trans people I've ever seen in the whole state of North Carolina growing up there. You know, I'm not from a big city where you're exposed to a lot of different things. Like I said, my whole family is from North Carolina. Me, my parents, grandparents, that's where we grew up, and my great-grandparents. And, you know, that's mostly all we know is North Carolina. You know, I remember it was one trans girl that worked in a call center with me in 2008. And when I tell you it was a big deal, it was a big deal. You know, everybody was, everybody, and she was the only one in the call center. And you know, I know you people are probably saying, well, how do you know who's trans and who's not, or what people have between their legs? Listen, in the town I was born in, you can't hide behind the privacy veil in Kinston, North Carolina. The town my parents are from, where I was born, where my grandmother and father lived, not Kinston, North Carolina, with a population of 20,000 people. Okay, that's where my family is from. Deep country, the middle of the woods. Everybody knows your business. Everybody is related to you. Everybody knows everything about you. There's no hiding behind the privacy veil there. They remember when your mother got pregnant with you. They remember when she gave birth to you and brung you home from the hospital. when you got your first tooth and when you got in your first fight. You know, everybody knows everything about everybody in Kinston, North Carolina. So, you know, can't hide and keep those kind of big of the secrets there. Because everybody already knows you and they know your family. They know who and what you really are, you know. And it's just like if I'm hanging out with one of my non Muslim friends and, you know, my alarm goes off on my phone and I say, oh, well, I gotta go, you know, it's time for me to go make Maghrib. And you would probably look at me like, to do what? What did you say, Jehan? Girl, you always being weird. Go make what? Jehan, what the heck are you talking about? It's time for me to go make Maghrib. To do who? What? Girl, and you would think I was a lunatic and crazy, and you would be confused, and you wouldn't know what the heck I was talking about when I say it's time for me to go make Maghrib. You know, because you don't live in my world. We don't speak the same language. We live in two different worlds. You know, Maghrib is one of our 5 prayers that we make daily. Maghrib. But if I said it's time for me to go make Maghrib, you wouldn't understand what the heck I'm talking about. And I wouldn't expect you to. Why? Because you're not a Muslim. We don't live in the same world. Isn't that crazy? You can be the same race as a person and still live in 2 completely, totally different worlds. And that's why God put me here. So I can invite you into my world, Jahania's world, and expose you to what our beautiful religion and way of life and our lifestyle is like and what it's about, because a lot of people in America don't know jack dilly squat about it, and I understand that, and I have to, you know, tell myself, Jehan, stop calling people ignorant and dumb. You can't expect for them to know anything about Islam. This is the United States of America.